Hello again, everybody. This is Dave from Blox News, Xclusive Collectibles, back for another break. Today we're breaking a 1991 Pro Set Platinum Series 2 box featuring, of course, Brett Favre. We're going to give you an idea of what comes out of these boxes. It looks like we may be missing potentially 4 packs, but I'm going to open it up and count them and see how many exactly we got. So, hope you enjoy. Alright, we're going to dig right in to the Pro Set Platinum packs. These are actually nice looking cards, you know, but you can't always get some nice looking cards. Quality, you can see on the corner right off the bat, along the side, there's a little damage to them. Go through each of the cards. We know what the Brett Favre looks like, Joe Montana, and such. So I'm going to go through and just show off the cards and go back through the names after the fact, because they are, in fact, quite nice looking cards. Some notables, of course, is Brett Favre out of this box. Yeah, potentially Herman Moore, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders. These are some great looking cards. You know, very simple design, but of course, quality control wasn't the greatest, and you get a little damage to the cards right out of the box, which is very frustrating for collectors. Yeah, Cornelius Bennett, Marcus Allen, Mike Gann, Eric Moten, Brian Hinkle, Matt Miller, Paul Gruder, Don Shula, Chris Singleton, Carl Banks, Eric Swan, and finally Chris Carter out of the first pack. So a couple good player cards, but the set is kind of the low value set, mass produced, but you know, there are some gem cards for the collectors to find because the boxes are so inexpensive to purchase. At least the packs aren't terrible to open like the upper decks for 91. It looks like a couple of them are sticking together because of the gloss. Mark Higgs, Mike Babe, Keith Sims. They are a little pain in the butt to get apart sometimes. Stanley Richard. But you know what? There are some hidden gems in this set. Darryl Green. No autographs. Native to the set. Pro Set Platinum really doesn't have too much in the way of inserts. There are a few. Irvin Fryer. But mainly you're looking for the player cards, especially as a collector. Alvin Walton. They are, in fact, really nice cards. Here's one great player coming up. Arenas Williams. Ken Harvey. Admittedly, I don't know every player by sight. Harris Baston. So, You know, gotta use the names as a guide. Ed West, Baggers, Tom Newberry. So you have one Arenas Williams out of the set so far. Moving along. Yeah, that's one thing. Sometimes you get boxes that they end up sticking together. For Eddie Brown. So you got to be careful as you separate them. Mel Gray. Todd Bowler. Wilton Moss. Russell Maryland coming up. Leonard Russell. Dan McGuire. These are awesome looking cards. One of the better looking sets from the 90s. Darren Connor. Daryl Thompson. So it's the gloss on the cards. You can hear them separate because they stick together. Dan Beebe. That's usually caused by the boxes being stacked for years and years and years on end and kind of a humid environment. Kevin Green. So, you know what? It's always good when you're looking to purchase stuff on eBay or Etsy or any other sites you're on. You ask them how they were stored. Brad Master. And sometimes they'll tell the truth. Sometimes you'll find some good boxes, but sometimes you'll get them all real stuck together. I haven't opened one of these boxes before to tell you the odds, or, you know, previous odds of pulling some of the Hall of Famers. Brian Blades. I have pulled, you know, in the past, a couple Brett Favres out of them, but haven't opened up a full box before. Drew Hill. Joe Morris. Ronnie Lott coming up. Awesome looking cards. Bill Brooks. Bill Fralick coming up. Michael Stewart. Andre Waters. Roger Craig. I believe this is Mark Carrier showing. Sure is. Lewis Sharp. And finally, this one, Edwin Jones. So we got Ronnie Lott, Mark Carrier, a couple good ones right off the top. These packs are relatively easy to open. Not really tamper-proof, but, you know, for back in the 90s, especially with this set, don't hear too many stories of them counterfeiting the cards coming out of this box. Brian Blades. And as you can tell, each one is pretty neat looking. Jacob Green. Even the lesser-known players have nice action shots throughout. Jerome Henderson. Larry Brown. Vaughn Johnson. Antoine Davis. Bill Brooks. Alan Pinkett. And a few more. Junior Seau, Hall of Famer. Robert Clark. Jeffrey Holland. And finally, rounding out the pack, we have Dan Majkowski. Firewatch, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders. But hopefully we find some Joe Montana, Dan Marino, Todd Lift, Jeff Herrod, Bill Romanowski, John Alt, Eric Green, Tunch, that one's a little hard to read. Tunch Elkin, might be saying that wrong. Lewis Lips, Brian Hinkle, David Grayson coming up, if we can get him out. Bryce Favre, Tim McGurr, and Chris Dickman. That's one. Dennis Smith. Mark Collins. Rufus Porter. Don Griffin. Joe Gibbs. Rob Moore. Caravis McGee. Jim McMahon, former Bear, went to the Eagles. David Fulcher. Andre Reed. Isaac Holtz. And Brad Buster. This one. Moving right along. Looks like right on the bottom, we got a Brett Favre. Let's see if we can check without damage on it. Brett Favre rookie card. It's a great looking card. Charles McRae. Irving Fryer. These ones are get a little stickier. We got Reuben Davis. At least we got the Favre out of there before it gets too bad. Jay Schroeder. If you're a big collector, even though some of these obscure sets aren't really worth too much, but you know, you can definitely get good cards. Anthony Munoz. And you know, big collectors like the good cards, good looking cards. John Alt. Morton Anderson. Vince Buck. Gil Feverty. Leonard Smith. Cool looking card. And finally out of this one, Will Welford. So as you can see, you got a pretty decent looking Favre card. Looks like maybe a little corner ding, maybe about a grade 9, 8, 9. You know, don't see it getting 10, but who knows. Next up, I believe this is pack 8 or 9. Maybe 8 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Todd White. Oh, that's not Todd. Todd White. Nick Bell, Mo Gardner, Browning Nagel, John Vaughn. This one's John Vaughn. Kevin Gogan, Mike Pritchard, Dan Salmanoa, David Maggette, make sure that's him, Bruce Matthews, Keith Barris, Mark Dreyer, and finally we have Anthony Miller out of this one. Looks like we're on pack 10 now. About a third of the way through. Let's break these up a little bit more, see if we can make it a little quicker. Ricky Irvins, Greg McGurtry, Mike Pryor, Michael Jackson, not the king of pop, Wendell Davis, Louis Lips once again, Ronnie Harmon, Chris Spielman, Gil Bird, Eric Allen, and finally out of this one, Tom Tupa. Alright, Dennis Smith, another Mel Gray, Todd Bowler, Chris Singleton, Russell Maryland, Caravis McGee, Dan McGuire, and finally, a couple of sneak in, Darryl Thompson, Don Beal, Barry Ward, Kevin Green, and Tom Newberry out of this pack. Alright, starting off the next one, Rodney Hampton, Mark Collins, Rufus Porter, Dan Griffin, Darryl Green, Rob Moore, Keith Jackson, another Jim McMahon, David Fulcher, Andre Reed, Bart Oates, and finally Brad Muster out of this pack. Next up, this one's fighting me. Todd Marinovich, Phil Hansen, Pat Harlow, Ray Agnew, Gary Clark, Paul Gruber, Steve Young, first one of those we've seen, Alfred Williams, Darian Connor, Mike Gann, Mark Jackson, and finally looks like Bruce Armstrong in this one. You can see a lot of these are definitely put together, which ends up damaging the cards over time. Eric Swan takes off the finish of the card if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, it actually leaves white spots. Chris Castor, Carl Banks, Joe Gibbs, Anthony Thompson, Don Shula, Alvin Walton, Matt Millett, Eric Moten, Jack Del Rio, Marcus Allen, and Mark Carrier. Randall McDaniel, Anthony Carter, Aaron Craver, Eugene Robinson, Jay Novacek, Ricky Natio, Warren Powers, Bubba McDowell, Steve Broussard, Stephen Page, Anthony Miller, and finally Cornelius Bennett out of this pack. Next up, these ones are really sticking. It's almost like a deck of cards. Got Mark Higgs, Mike Babb, Keith Sims, Chris Singleton, Stanley Richard, Rainus Williams, Harris Barton, Ken Harvey, Mr. Blades, Ed West, and finally out of this one, Barry Foster. Moving right along. Got a couple Hall of Famers so far. The packs are getting worse. The gloss, obviously. Gotta peel them apart nice and careful, or you tend to get white spots on the cards where the actual gloss is pulled, separated from the card. Don Beebe, Dan McGuire, Darrell Thompson, Russell Maryland, Kavaris McGee, Winston Moss, Darryl Green, Todd Bowler, Mel Gray, and finally out of this one, Eddie Brown. Oh, two more, Tom Newberry and Kevin Green. We might have already did those. Moving along, a little more than halfway, I believe. Haven't really counted. Haven't really kept track out of this one. Gotta separate these best I can. Bobby Herbert, Dennis Smith, Mark Collins, neat card, Rufus Foster, Don Griffin, Rob Moore, Keith Jackson, Jim McMahon. I think that's the third one we've gotten so far. David Fulcher, Andre Reed, Isaac Holt, Bart Oates, and finally, this one, Brad Muster. Got about 12 of these left. Todd Marinovich, Erwin Fryer, Reuben Davis, John Alt, Morton Anderson, Vince Buck, Gil Flaherty, Ken Harvey, Darion Connor, Will Wolford, Anthony Munoz, and finally Jay Schroeder. Ricky Irvins, Ronnie Holman, Tom Tupa. See a lot of these guys. Not many Hall of Famers. Eric Allen, Keith Barris, Chris Spielman, Ronnie Harmon, Wendell Davis. I think that's one of the first ones of him. Jeff Legman, Mike Pryor, Renus Williams, Ronnie Lott, good one. Mark Carrier, Junior Seau, Don Majowski, not a bad pack at all. Bill Romanowski, Jim McMahon, Andre Reed, Pat Harlow, Steve Young, haven't seen many of him, Marcus Allen, Mark Carrier, and Cornelius Bennett. That's quite the pack we got. Looks like Brett Favre right on the bottom of that one. Carl Banks, Jeff Harrod, Bill Romanowski, Phil Farlett, Eric Green, Tunch Ilkin, Brian Hinkle, Leonard Smith, Bryce Bate, Tim McGuire, and finally out of this one, Chris Dickerson. So we got another 5 out of that one. Next up, Kyle Clifton, Freeman McNeil, Mike Kroll, Henry Jones, Harvey Williams, Wendell Davis, Ricky Natil, Mike Singletary. I think that's might have been in the first, but I think we got one other one. Kevin Ross, Michael Irvin, first one of him we've gotten. And last ones are Johnny Hollard and Ronnie Holman. So definitely got a couple good ones there. Moving right along, trying to finish this one up. Drew Hill, Joe Morris, Ronnie Lott, Craig Taylor, Michael Stewart, Robert Delfino, Alfred Williams, Andre Waters, David Grayson, Lewis Sharp, that's not Lewis, Lewis Sharp, Mark Carrier, and finally out of this one, Roger Craig. Next up, Charles McRae, Reggie Langhorne, Ricky Jackson, Al Noga, Jeff Legman, Anthony Johnson, Willie Marshall, Steve Jordan, Ernie Jones, John Freeze, Henry Ellard, and finally out of this one, Stephen Atwater. Alright, we're on, got about a handful left. Thurman Thomas, Nick Bell, Mo Gardner, Browning Nagel, Kevin Cogan, Michael Jackson, Jay Novacek, Dan Salmanua, Dave Maggette, that's not him, Dave Maggette, Bruce Matthews, Jose Offerdell, Joe Offerdale, John, goodness, Don Majowski, and finally, out of this one, Anthony Miller. Next up, seeing a lot of the same people. Brian Blades, Jacob Green, Jerome Henderson, Larry Brown, Vaughn Johnson, Jay Hildenberg, Alan Pinkett, Junior Seau, Robert Clark, John Offerdale, Don Majowski, not far behind, and finish it off with Steven Atwater out of that pack. Alright, we're almost at the final countdown. We have 2 Favres, a couple Youngs, a couple Seaus, Todd Light, Nick Bell, Mo Gardner, Browning Nagel, Kevin Cogan, Antoine Davis, Bill Brooks, Dan Salomonua, I can't say it, David Maggette, Bruce Matthews, Keith Barris, and out of this one, Mark Dreyer. Finishing up here, got 2 more after this one. Kyle Clifton, Jacob Green, Jerome Henderson, Larry Brown, Vaughn Johnson, Mike Pritchard, Alan Pinkett, Junior Seau making another appearance, Robert Clark, Johnny Holland, Barry Ward, and Bart Oates out of that pack. So we got Junior out of there. Alright, 2 left. Randall McDaniel, Freeman McNeil, Mike Kroll, Henry Jones, Henry Williams, Antoine Davis, Ricky Nattiel, Mike Singletary, Kevin Ross, Michael Irvin, Stephen Page, and finally Bernie Blades making his appearance yet again. Alright, this is the final pack in 1991 Pro Set Platinum. Rodney Hampton, Anthony Gates, Aaron Craver, Eugene Robinson, Randall Hill, Keith Jackson, Warren Powers, Bubba McDowell, Steve Broussard, Lamar Brown, Jack Del Rio, and finally Cornelius Bennett. So there you have it, 1991 Pro Set Platinum football. Not a whole lot of great cards, obviously no inserts to speak of, but we did pull 2 Favres, about 5 Junior Seaus, some Michael Irvins, Ronnie Watt, and now you have kind of an idea of what to get out of these boxes. You shouldn't be able to pick up these boxes too expensively. You shouldn't overpay for boxes, but these are obviously kind of lower grade. People buy them just for the Hall of Famers, Brett Favre. So hope you got a little bit out of this. Click like and subscribe, and see you next time. Thanks for watching our video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Click the subscribe button for more videos. Listen and download us on SoundCloud. Visit our site at bloxnews.net and xclusivecollectibles.com for articles, news, collectibles, and help with your website, marketing, and SEO needs. Email us at info@bloxcoinnews.com to learn more.